Welcome to the first ever episode of the Jeff
and the Bonch
Show. Now you might be asking, why did we wait 13 weeks of the regular season before coming out with the first episode of this show?
It's a good question.
The answer to that question is that we spent 13 weeks coming up with the perfect formula, the best football show ever.
Yep.
And this is what we came up with.
Okay, we're going to have 3 segments to the show. Segment number 1, basically a quick recap week 13.
Segment number 2.
Game predictions for week 14.
Segment number 3.
A couple of fantasy recommendations or non-recommendations for you should start and bench.
That's right. So let's get down to business and go to the first thing.
Which is a quick recap of week 13.
What we were supposed to specify. We're going to say a big stud and a big turd. Or a big
dud.
A big turd.
Let's keep it PG, Jeff.
Studs and turds. No, studs and duds.
Yes. The Chris Johnson we all know and love, the Chris Johnson I picked in the first round and I expected to get in my fantasy team, showed up. 153 rushing yards, led the Titans to a much-needed victory, and my opinion is if he can keep up what he's been doing the last couple weeks, finally, get a little offensive line, some blocking finally, the Titans will make the playoffs. Now, if he keeps it up, that's remains to be seen, but we'll see what happens.
I said, even though he's not going to be CJ 2K, he'll be CJ
1K.
Not one, just say
just
CJ K.
Just
yeah.
K?
At least he's got that. I have a stud. I just thought of one.
Oh, really?
Sean Green. How about that? 3 touchdowns.
His first career 3-touchdown game.
Fantastic.
In a game the Jets had to have. Jason Garrett calls a timeout and ices his own kicker. I have yet to hear a logical explanation for why he did this. I heard something about, oh, well, I wanted to make sure we were in the right position, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line, Jason Garrett choked as a head coach. He did one of the dumbest moves I've seen all season.
I was also gonna go coach, I decided.
Really?
So I'm gonna go Jim Schwartz.
Interesting.
And I'm gonna go him because I wanted to do the Lions as a whole because they're a group of morons. But I decided to just use him because he's the figurehead for that, because I don't know how a coach could let his team do that. After your best defensive player is suspended for 2 games. Yeah, like, you gotta have speakers come in, and I'm sure they did. And then your players still go out and they get these stupid penalties that basically take away any chance they even had of being in that game.
I think what Jim Schwartz tried to do when he became head coach of the Lions was install some type of attitude to a team that has been struggling for more than a decade now. But the problem is it's not working effectively. Instead of becoming a tough team, they're becoming a dirty team. They're becoming the Raiders of the NFC, and that is not a good thing. We're going to start on the Thursday night game. That would be the Cleveland Browns.
Do the Thursday night games always stink or what?
Yes.
Is that a requirement?
My feeling is just because it's not the regular schedule for the players, they can't get used to that Thursday.
But the games themselves, the matchups.
I don't know how the league network picks itself.
Last week, Eagles
mediocre
at Seahawks.
Games. Yeah.
This week's
in defense of Eagles and Seahawks, it was technically between 2 division winners from last year.
But what about
yes, the
this?
Seahawks were 7-9.
What about this? Browns at Steelers. Who thought this was going to be close before the season?
The reason they picked this probably is because a couple years ago Cleveland beat Pittsburgh on Thursday. So they were like, oh, it's going to happen again. Well,
I remember that.
The battle of the Florida teams. Both team seasons are over.
Boring game. Don't watch it.
Yeah, if you're stuck watching it down in Florida, I'm sorry.
One of the better games of the week.
Yes.
That's for sure.
The Bengals, in a lot of people's opinions, were exposed last week by Pittsburgh. They've been struggling a little bit.
I have the Texans. I know you have.
I'm going to go with the Bengals. I think that defense can maintain Arian Foster.
Tyler defense is good.
TJ Yates' first start on the road. I'm going to say the Bengals, maybe surprise a few people, get the win at home. The Eagles should be much better than the Dolphins. We all know what's happened to the Dream Team. The Dolphins have been red hot for the last month or so. The Eagles, in my opinion, are going to quit on Andy Reid like they've been doing the last couple of weeks. I think this game is going to be closer than people think. The Saints are not the same team on the road they are at home. The Titans are in the middle of the wild card race. Chris Johnson, as we said, is back on track. I believe the Saints get the victory, but it's going to be close.
And I believe the Saints also get the victory, but it won't be close.
Same blowout?
Yeah.
closer than that. I'm not gonna.
41 team.
The Titans aren't that bad.
1 team.
They're not that bad. As bad as the Lions have been, the Vikings are that much worse. Vikings secondary is a joke. A big game for Matthew Stafford. Lions get back on track with a victory.
You were right. Well, I don't know about back on track, but we get a victory.
Do you have to get a win to get back on track?
I guess they're getting back on track, but they're not going to stay on track.
Well, yeah, but you can get back on track for a week and then fall off the track.
That's true.
Kevin Cobb is not a good quarterback in my opinion. Maybe the game will be closer than people think, but the Niners get the victory on the road.
Upset special time.
Uh-oh.
I'm going with the Cardinals. I don't know why I talked in that voice.
Why did you use that voice, Jeff?
That's the upset special voice.
Okay.
The Cardinals win it in a close one.
Complete toss-up. If the Giants were fully healthy, I would pick them, but no OC, a banged-up offensive line. I'm going to say the Cowboys get the win at home.
And I'm going to go with the Giants. Here's a Monday night game no one cares about, besides people who have Marshawn
NFC
Lynch
West,
on their
get
fantasy
ready.
teams. Rams at Seahawks. Seahawks aren't that
The
bad.
Seahawks
actually.
aren't as bad as people want to think they are. In my opinion, Tavares Jackson's not as bad as people want to think he is. The Rams are worse than people think they are. For our final segment, we will have our little bit of fantasy information for all of you.
Some surprises.
And a couple of duds as well.
It's also a surprising duds.
True.
So it's all surprising.
This is true.
Surprising good things and surprising
Alright,
bad.
we're going to start with our recommendations for the week. People you should be playing and expect good things from. I'm going to start with Bills running back C.J. Spiller. I know he isn't Fred Jackson. I'm sorry to all Fred Jackson owners out there who lost him. However, C.J. Spiller showed a little bit of promise last week. He was a first-round pick, highly regarded coming out of college, and this week he plays the Chargers, who are ranked 26th in the league in run defense. I'm going to boldly predict 120 yards and a touchdown from C.J. Spiller. Start him as a running back 2, full confidence.
Damian Williams on the Titans.
Tennessee?
Yeah. Alright. He's home against the Saints, who have awful passing defense.
Yeah, not a good defense at all.
Going to be a lot of scoring. Titans are going to have to throw the ball a lot.
Agreed.
And he's been targeted at least 7 times in 4 of the last 5 games.
I think he's a nice little receiver.
He could have a good game.
USC.
Not great, but maybe as a flex play. 65 yards, touchdown chance. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot.
Torrey Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. I believe we all know Torrey Smith at this point, at least for the season, is a boom or bust fantasy player.
That's true.
He's been quiet for a couple weeks now. He's playing obviously a bad defense in the Colts, who had just lost another cornerback in Gerard Powers. I expect a boom from Mr. Smith.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to say probably only 3 or 4 catches, but with his yards per catch average, I'm going to say about 90 yards and a touchdown. Start him in your flex 5. Now, when we say busts,
Doesn't
we don't
mean you shouldn't
necessarily
start 'em.
mean you should bench them.
It's just that you're going to get bad luck.
Not what you would expect from that player.
Yeah.
One of the most surprising stats of the season: your number 1 defense in passing yardage against is the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy, isn't it?
I think it was about 170 yards a game.
That's crazy.
I mean, Joe Hayden's a pretty solid corner. Their safeties aren't bad. I do expect, as we said earlier, for the Steelers to win this game big. That being said, I expect a run-first game plan. I'm going to say no more than 1 touchdown for Big Ben, maybe a little over 200 yards. If you have a better option on your bench, I would bench Big Ben.
Because if you have Big Ben, you probably have another decent quarterback
Yes.
too.
If you have a better option, I would sit Big Ben this week.
This one might surprise you, viewer. LaShawn McCoy at Miami. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to have an awful game, but he's not going to do what he did last week in Seattle, because the Dolphins, they only allow 93 rush yards a game, 5th in the NFL. They've won 4 of their last 5. Last week, Michael Bush, who's had a good season, ran for 18 yards against them on 10 carries. And if you're good at math, you'll know that that's 1.8 yards per carry, which is not good. So LaShawn McCoy, 60 yards, I'm going to say. Vic is coming back. They're going to pass it a little bit more. Vic will get the rushing touchdown in this one. You'll see I'm right.
That about wraps up the week inaugural edition of the Jeff and the Bonch show. If you have any questions or comments, please be happy.
We'd be happy
We'd
to
be
read
happy
and answer your questions,
to answer
whatever
them.
they may be. about football that is.
Yes. You
Football
know, if
related.
there's a problem with your home life, I'm sorry, we can't help you. We could, just we
It's a
wouldn't
football
recommend.
show.
Yeah.
It's a football show.
But yeah, hopefully you'll see us again soon.
Have a good week.
Good luck to all the fantasy owners out there in the playoffs.
Bye.